So today is our 21st anniversary. We actually don't know what we're doing for our anniversary yet. We just know that we're going to drop our kids off at my mom's and see where the wind takes us, I guess. If you want to come along. And actually, what we're going to be talking about today is starting over in your 40s.
Oh my gosh, for reals.
Do you have any thoughts, like, off the top of your head about that?
I do actually. I've come into contact with several people that have like starting over in their 60s or mid 60s, and it's just kind of like, well, I think there needs to be a level of that in your life to have the flexibility to be able to do that. And I mean, you also have to think when you're starting over, you're not starting over at
0
level 10. You know, well, you're not starting. Yeah, you're right. You're starting over with tools. In a sense, but it doesn't mean that you're starting over at a very high level. You're starting over in a place where you have to have some sort of humility and I mean, I guess I'm thinking of like starting over something completely different.
Well,
So,
I mean, I think that's
I mean,
what the concept of starting over
right.
is, like a reset in a way.
I guess you can call it the next iteration of your life. I imagine that there's many of these quote unquote starting over points. Recently, I was faced with starting over, and
well, sort of in your own mind.
In my own mind, right? Concept of, well, what starting over? What are you thinking? I was a little bit taken aback by how vulnerable I felt, especially with the place where our family is.
Our oldest, Mavie, is graduating, so it just makes you start thinking a little more in a lot of different directions.
Well,
and like all of a sudden, like I've thought numerous times how the kids' growing up years did not feel short to me at all, but this part after they started high school has felt like that. And it's just where you feel like you have this time, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, what did we miss? What did we forget? What have we not done that we wanted to do? Like, just so much stuff.
But at the same time, you have a different level of relationship with them, and
are you talking about with your kids?
Yeah, with your kids.
Yeah.
Like, our kids just like to hang out with us and talk.
Well, I think that there's it seems to me that a big component of that is that we have structured our whole life around the ability to do that and around being together, like, as a priority.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, fun. I'm not entirely sure. It feels like we got off track from starting over in your 40s, but it's true. Maybe a little bit of a preview. We really like to all sit around and talk, and it seems like a crime to not be recording them. So we're going to start doing that, I think. And we're going to have to maybe have a lot of editing because they say some pretty unhinged things sometimes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So anyway, we're going to continue this discussion throughout the day. So if you want to come along with us and see where our anniversary takes us. So this is very us coded. That we are eating in the car.
Yeah.
Because we like to watch stuff while we eat. I like to go in restaurants too sometimes, but I don't know. It's fun to just...
I generally like to be at restaurants more than she does.
It just depends. This is sushi. And we did this twice in February.
Oh, that's right.
We tend to find things that we like and stick with them for a little while. I like to go new places. Actually, okay, I will say, I like to try new restaurants. But if we're just going to some restaurant that we've been a bunch of times, I'm less likely to just want to go sit in there.
I generally do not like to try new restaurants because if I'm going to pay for food, I want to eat something that I like to eat, and I don't necessarily always find something that I want to eat at a new restaurant.
You're just not sure if you're going to like it, but you definitely always find things to eat. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, obviously you're going to find something to eat.
No, I mean, you're not like, that picky, really.
No, but it annoys me if I buy something and then I'm like, oh, I didn't really like it, and I could have gotten that I actually do like.
I mean, yeah. If I'm like super hungry, then I probably don't want to try a new place, but...
Yeah, that's it.
Most of the time I'm not like super hungry. Anyway, so we're going to do that and watch a movie, and we're at a park. Because it's fun.
That's why you hear
peaceful.
birds.
Well, I don't know if they can hear it or
I
not.
think they can hear birds.
Oh, did you think any more about the starting over at 40?
No.
One thing is that if you actually think about starting over, like completely from scratch.
Oh, I remember.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, sorry.
No, I was just gonna. You can really get in the place of failure mode in your mind. But realistically, why should it matter? Like you start thinking all the things that you didn't do that you should have done better that should be here by now.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of silly. Oh, or one thing I thought of earlier, I forgot to mention, people will remind other people of this, that people will be like, aw, this is her first time just being a girl too, or whatever. Like the concept of no matter how old you are, it's the first time you're living that age. It's the first time you're experiencing this or that thing. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. Like, why would you? That doesn't make sense.
It's so hard to not compare. That's something that I had been like really finding myself doing quite a bit. And the funny thing is that I was thinking about it today, that I was like, my horizon had been getting constricted more and more and more and more. And I was like, yeah, this is a good place. This is where I want to be. This is comfortable. This is whatever. And then all of a sudden, bam, no, your life is so much more than just that. And the options are so much bigger, and you don't have to. It wasn't like I was settling, because I wasn't necessarily settling. But it was just kind of like
being in a rut, not really
no,
thinking.
not because it's. I don't want the negative connotation, because it's not negative. It wasn't negative.
Are you talking about like kind of coasting, or maybe
it wasn't even that? It was just like it always felt like I was doing something on the side, and eventually it was going to be something. But then I was like, well, no, this thing on the side, this can be the thing, and I was very comfortable doing the thing, and I was like, yeah, I think I can. Your perspective changed. My perspective was like, I can lean into this. I can go. And then all of a sudden it was like, no. It wasn't like...
It started feeling more volatile.
It started feeling way more volatile, and I wasn't as comfortable as I thought. You know what I mean? And so then it's just kind of like, oh, okay. And then my perspective just kind of widened, like way out. And I'm like, oh, because once you start thinking of like, can I do this? How would it look for me to do that? There's a lot of different options, but more than outward, being a creative. Be in creating mode more. And that was just something that, almost 7 years, we just kind of shut off. We just kind of just stopped.
Well, I started picking it back up again a little bit more, but yeah, we should talk about that at some point today. The drop off in creating, and the other thing that when you were saying reminded me that the whole thing of like coasting, and how we set a decently big goal in the beginning of our marriage that we wanted to be working together from home and both be home with our kids. Like, I don't know, did we ever exactly really spell it out, or was it just kind of...
This is the thing, like, what that happens with marriage. Like, you say something, and my vision of it is one thing. Your vision of it is a different thing.
You bring up a good point, that it's very easy, and the amount of times that we have thought we are on the same page, just because whatever we're thinking in our own minds seems like what we're obviously talking about, and it's not the same.
And that happens so much,
I don't
or at least
think it happens too much now, does it?
No.
I mean, we've definitely, 21 years of marriage, we've definitely...
But I mean, even with 21 years of marriage, you still have to understand that it's like, holy cow, we are so completely different. We can be saying the same thing and thinking completely different things, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, but that goes for all people, all communications. Just because what's going on in our minds is completely, like, the way we experience life is completely different.
Our thought structure, our thought patterns are very different, like very, very different.
And you don't realize that it's not the same until you come up against things where you're like, how did we get so different?
Right.
To such different places.
But to go back to the coasting thing, it's like we got to a point and we're like, okay, now we're here. Yay.
But no, the thing is, it was more of like, we hit the goals that, like, we had some specific goals. We hit them, and then life just kind of kept happening. And we didn't ever set really specific next goals. It didn't occur to us that we hadn't done that, I guess, at that age. And you look up a decade later.
Yeah. And
you're like, whoa, how did we get here? And we haven't accomplished XYZ, like we've accomplished whatever it is.
Every time, because we didn't say that we were going to do anything. You know what I mean?
The target, yeah.
We didn't hit it. We got to that one place, but we didn't set any target.
And part of that, honestly, is because of the subconscious mindset that we couldn't set other goals because we were somehow a victim of, quote unquote, like a victim or whatever. Like we were subject to whatever income we happened to be making at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And so we had it backwards in our minds that, oh, when we somehow magically have more money, then we'll set
right
goals. And this was all subconscious.
Even recently, like 3 or 4 years ago, I still thought, well, we can't really set any financial goals because we aren't really making any money right now, or we aren't making the kind of money that we want to be making. Once we're making all this money, then
so silly.
It
so
is
backwards.
It is, but at the same time, I mean, it's a normal mindset, really.
Well, it's a common mindset, at least, I think.
So
maybe we can leave it there for now and eat. And
I'm hungry. Yes, I was like, gosh.
So we got some dessert. This is the thing that we did. We're date repeaters. 18 years ago, it was snowing on this day. So
18? Are you sure?
Yeah, the year that we had Micaiah. I mean, maybe. The year we had Maybe, it was snowing, which was 18 years ago.
I remember that.
So the whole thing about getting stuck, or not getting stuck, but like taking a break from creating content for a good 7 years, I guess.
7.
Almost no content during that time. Part of that was the deconstruction journey, honestly. In 2015, I started questioning a lot of things and going through a lot of things myself. By the end of 2016, he was kind of at the same place or a similar place. Honestly, though, that was really difficult when we were on pretty different pages with that stuff.
The thing with that, though, you're by far, between the both of us, the deepest thinker, I think.
Well, yeah. But like, I don't really have a choice. It's not like, so to me, it kind of feels really, really weird that he doesn't automatically think in those ways, because it's just like, so I can't not.
I am very, I want to say, rigid in the things in my framework, and so I don't
rigid in your framework.
Yeah, the thoughts that I get aren't really, unless they're like extremely good thoughts and just change my paradigm, my logical paradigm. You are more moved by the questions, and I'm more moved by the already prearranged thoughts. I'm not a person that questions things. I'm not a person that's like, what about this or what about that? No, I'm just like, oh yeah, this makes sense to me, and so I'm just going to go with it. You're like, okay, but what about this? Or what if that? Or whatever. I'm not a questions person. I don't sit around and question things. I don't sit around
that
and
does
think
add
about
up.
that stuff.
Because like, whenever you're doing something and I ask questions and you're like, I don't know, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
what? That's the most obvious question.
But to me, it doesn't make sense to be like, okay, we're doing point A to point B. And so to me, I compartmentalize the situation, and I'm like, how do I get from point A to point B? I'm not thinking about whether point A is better or whether we should go to point Z or whatever. I'm like, how do you get this done as fast as possible?
But you're not thinking as fast as possible necessarily. You're just thinking, this is how I already know.
No. To me, if you already know what you need to be doing, when you are already going through path A, why are you in the middle of path A thinking, maybe I should have gone on path B.
No,
it could have been faster.
Here's the thing.
That's how it feels.
In your head, you're already on the path, but because that's how you were already thinking, but you're not actually started yet.
What do you mean?
Like, for example, when we did Micaiah's bed, the only path that was already started on was in your head. We hadn't started anything yet. And you were already like, what? Why are we blah, blah, blah,
We
blah.
already had bought stuff, dude.
No. We started the conversation before we bought stuff. I didn't want to buy stuff and not be on the same page. So we had like a whole, 2 hour maybe, run around about how we were going to do it, so that we wouldn't end up, because actually, once we actually did it, it was pretty fast. Like once we actually had the stuff, because we had already talked through how we were going to do it. If you don't take time to make sure you have the same objective, you're going to automatically be on different pages, because you're not even trying to hit the same target. Like,
right. But then it's not just being, because again, this is where what we had talked about earlier, being on the same objective, but not speaking the same language.
If I'm thinking that point B is here, and he's thinking that point B is here, you can both be talking about point B, but have completely different obvious ways to get there, because you're actually not talking about the same point B.
Right.
Like, for example, with the bed, my biggest objective with it was to have as much space for her as possible, but also to be as thin as possible.
Right.
And what you were thinking was, this is a certain way to do this thing, so this is obviously how you have to do it. And that's why I was asking questions, and he was getting frustrated, and we were talking past each other. In any case, that's not really related to starting over in your 40s. Other than, I guess we could tie it in the context of we have somewhat gotten better at communicating and understanding how to get on the same page faster. We've had a decent amount of experience of what our priorities are together and how to work together. And
so I guess recap number one about starting over in your 40s is know where you're going. First and foremost,
know how to be on the same
you
page.
need to know where you're going. And if you have a spouse or a significant other, you need to be on the same page about what you're doing. I'm thankful that you and I have at least like a very, I don't want to say candid, but I mean, technically speaking, I guess it is a candid relationship where we can talk to each other and communicate and explore. Sometimes I feel like sometimes we argue about stuff just because we like arguing.
Well,
and we like
me,
the
it's
mental
a mental
exercise. Yeah.
But I thought you didn't used to like that.
No, I love it, dude. That's another part of like the whole communication thing. I kind of took it personally because I didn't understand that you were just shooting the.
Well, I know our kids don't love it when we have some of these discussions when we're just like, it's been built up that we just need to have a little bit of an argument. It's like tension to them, which it is kind of, but we know that it's not a big deal and then it's not going anywhere. Like, we're just getting out some energy essentially and exercising mentally. But I think there's still ways we could improve in our exchanges sometimes.
Do you think it's too dark?
I mean, it is looking dark, but it's just
dark.
The sun goes in and out. Now that you did that little point number one about being on the same page and knowing where you're going, that makes me think we should stop and come up with some bullet points and get back.
Yeah.
This is now the next day. What did we end up doing? I don't remember where we left off. After we had the ice cream, we tried to figure out what to do, and then we ended up just getting some food and coming home, and we watched some movies and stuff. So at a business meeting, I had a meeting about Mavy's graduation. We had a couple more bullet points. My bullet point is very much to watch your thought life. You can look back at your life and you can be like, man, I made this decision and I made that decision. I should have done that. We should have done this. It can be an endless cycle of just negativity. You don't want to live in regret. If it's a learning experience, learn from it and move on. Don't hold on to things. Don't beat yourself up over things. Just put one step in front of the other. If there's a learning curve to what you're doing, just move ahead. I know for myself, it's really easy to be like, I should be here by now, or I wish I would have done that. There's no benefit to that. The past is the past. We need to live in the future.
Well, no.
Live in the present.
We need to live in the present.
There's a saying, many people fail to live because they're always preparing to live.
Yep. Yeah.
My bullet point about starting over is with the concept of trying a lot of different things. Like, over this past couple decades of marriage, we've tried a lot of different stuff here and there. And honestly, a lot of things you don't know if you want to do them unless you try them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know who came up with the notion that you're supposed to have XYZ figured out by a certain age. Like, if you don't have XYZ figured out by a certain age, you're not allowed to keep going, keep trying things. You either have already succeeded or failed. That's kind of silly if you really think about it. Who decides what timeline you're on?
How much of that is just taking yourself too seriously to some extent?
I mean, I think the biggest part of it, honestly, is just comparing, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, this person over here is, quote unquote, so much further ahead, and they're this much younger than me, for example. Or these peers are at this point, but realistically, there's absolutely no way to truthfully compare, no way of knowing the fullness of that person or their experience. You're just looking at a couple different metrics. It's just, I mean, obviously, we know it's just silly to compare in general. In the same breath, you can compare to people that are quote unquote more successful. You can also compare to people that are less successful and possibly feel better about yourself, but it's still a futile exercise because you are the only one that can be you, and there's no way to compare that.
I guess the ultimate question there is, did you give your all to what you were doing?
And the thing is, even if you didn't, still not something to sit around regretting. It doesn't
Yeah,
benefit. But in the last however many years, I've tried to put my focus in right now. Like, even that can feel like, oh, but you're not planning ahead for the future, this, that, and the other thing. And it's easy to just feel condemned, so to speak, or guilty or irresponsible with the concept of starting over in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever. Really doesn't have an age per se. We don't have it figured out. But I think that's okay. And I think it's helpful to recognize how silly some of these societal things are, honestly. If you're not enjoying your present moment, how much of that is honestly just up to you and your perception of it? We also have choices that we can make in each moment. There's no reason to stay stuck. One of the things we've learned to think more regularly is, how can I? Lots of people teach it, but the concept of, I can't do XYZ because of this, that, and the other constraint or apparent constraint. When you look at it as, how can I, you start to see that there are actually possibilities. The other thing that I've found is looking at all the positives, the things that you do have to be grateful for, opens up the possibilities. Because when you're looking on the side of lack, you're blinded to what you actually can accomplish and what you have in your hand that you can work with. One example is our living situation. We only had a 2-bedroom space to work with, and we just our mindset was, don't really want to be doing a lot with this because it's not where we want to be anyway. It's supposed to be temporary. We've been here now for almost 15 years, and we did a lot of traveling in that time, so it's not like we were living here the whole time, but it didn't turn out to be temporary. Unless you make a specific plan, the temporary things just keep going. But in any case, it now has 5 bedrooms because we finally stopped looking at the lack and the frustration with the temporary situation that was just dragging on. Looked at that in the creative, how can we mindset, and we owe a lot of that to David's way of thinking of how we could restructure some things. And yeah, so like, we enjoy our space way more now. We have more space to work with, obviously, etc. When I'm saying 5 bedrooms, I don't mean that they're all used as bedrooms, but that's the concept. I guess this is kind of like an update of sorts for ourselves to remember this point in time, and also as encouragement to anyone who happens to see this, that it's okay.
It's okay.
There's a lot of people on the same page.
Age doesn't matter. Don't, just because you're in your 50s or in your 60s or even in your 70s or in your 80s, you can still start over, and it's all right.
There's that list of all the people who started XYZ, and like KFC was started by a guy in his 70s, like Grandma Moses started painting in her 80s, stuff like that. There's so much.
It's all up here. It's just it's just mentality. It's just the way, your outlook. And if you're feeling hopeless, then maybe you need to look into what's making you feel hopeless. What are you listening to?
What are you listening to? But also,
what voice, like what?
Is the concept of what you're putting your hope into kind of misguided? Like, shift perspectives. There's a lot more opportunity and possibility. Yes. I guess we didn't really say, like, we're not exactly starting over, but we're starting over in our mentality, in the sense that we want to go back towards creating in a bigger capacity. And I guess we want to shift perspective, starting over in this part of our life and moving forward.
Yeah, I do think it's to some extent a starting over. It's reigniting of starting, just the starting. I don't know. I just think, like we were in sync, but we technically weren't.
Part of the thing with being married this amount of time, like, there was a point where I realized, you know what, I cannot be depending on you or outsourcing part of my own responsibility for some of my own things that I want to do to you, to some extent. Because, like, there was stuff that I always thought of as us doing together, and I realized I don't need to be waiting on you to be on the same page with everything for me to do stuff that's in my heart to do, for example. And I'm also not responsible for how you process stuff or how you grow or all of those kinds of things. So I think that's part of where we're able to move forward in a better way is we both have to be responsible for our own
Right.
for our own interactions with life, essentially.
In of the sense that we're more complete or we're better rounded.
So I don't really know how to end this because I'm not sure what this is going to be like. It's been a long time since I've edited something like this. And we know that we want to, like I said, do a bunch of conversations with our kids. I guess we'll see what happens.